Every year on June 16th, Africa marks the International Day of the African Child to remember the courage of its children. This year's theme is Planning and Budgeting for Children's Rights, Progress since 2010. It all began in 1976 when thousands of students in Soweto, South Africa marched against an unfair education system. Many were shot and many never made it home, but their voices still echo today. Now, this day is about action. It's a time to ask, how far have African governments come in turning promises for children into real results? Millions of children still lack access to safe schools, good health care, clean water, and protection from abuse. In places where budgets are tight, children's needs often come last. In Nigeria, issues like malnutrition, child labor, out-of-school children, and gender-based violence remain widespread, especially in rural areas. Planning and budgeting for children's rights isn't just paperwork. It's about giving every child a fair chance to grow, learn, and lead a better life. Government needs to track what's working, fix what's broken, and spend wisely to protect the next generation. The African child deserves more than remembrance. They deserve commitment. They deserve results. I am Ifunaya Indigwe, reporting for BusinessDay TV.
Today is not just another Monday, it's the Day of the African Child, a day that reminds us of the beauty, the brilliance, and yes, the burdens that so many African children still carry today. We often say the children are the future, but for millions of African children, even the present is still a struggle. This day traces back to June 16 of 1976 in Soweto, South Africa, when thousands of children took to the streets demanding the right to be taught in their own language. They wanted something so simple, education that reflected their identity, but they were met with gunfire, hundreds being killed. Their courage sparked the movement, and today, nearly 5 decades later, their voices still echo across the continent. But what would these brave children say they saw things today, Valentine?
Indeed, I will tell you. First and foremost, I wish we had a national, or put this way, intercontinental or continental anthem for children, because you cannot have all this great talk without we, hitting our kids. We're all, kids one way or the other when we're growing up with, first and foremost, children, and became adults. But to lay the way it is, today's 16th has an array of things that we need to narrow at to say, why aren't our kids round Africa, length and breadth, not enjoying life the way they're supposed to enjoy life? What are the challenges? And if there are solutions, what are the solutions? But more importantly, can we prevent mortality rate for children? Can we reduce the amount of kids that die unnecessarily? Don't forget, one of Africa's powerful, our stronghold lies in the people. That's the fact. Countries like Burkina Faso is a landlocked country, but their strength is in the people. And so you need children who will eventually become adults, to become greater leaders, And then on the flip side, who is responsible for making sure that systems in Africa don't work properly? Are we not just, put it this way, are we being exploited, and is it trickling down to affecting the kids, our children, while they're not getting the best of all education? Is it because of bad leadership, bad decisions, or is it tied to having unnecessary, put this way, selfish dealings with the West? Call it as it is. Because if statistics have shown that more African kids are liable to die before the age of 5 than developed countries.
Interesting.
Why is that so? Why should it be like that?
That's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. So in every, put it this way, 10 children, 1 will die. Is that what you're telling me? Out of some that is preventable? You know, the challenges are there. And if you look at it, you hardly will record, I don't know if there are records out there to show that you have more child soldiers in different countries outside Africa than we have in Africa. So what is the cause of all this? What's giving room for this particular problem?
And then also speaking about Africa, now children in many parts of Africa, children are still marching. They're marching not in protest, but they're marching to fetch water, to find work, or to simply survive. And here in Nigeria, it's heartbreaking to know that over 10 million children are out of school, and that's the highest number in the world. Now, girls in rural areas are being married off as early as 12 years old. Some children go to school on empty stomachs. That's if they go at all. And there are real efforts happening on the ground, I must say. Local NGOs, community teachers, tech startups, they're building classrooms, training educators, delivering lessons over the radio and online. Young people are rising up, they're creating solutions. If you look at so many of the startups these days, they're young people creating them, although not children, but I mean,
innovative.
Pretty much. Now, they're community-led education initiatives, programs like UNICEF, school feeding schemes. We have that. We have digital education innovation by startup and NGOs. And this is in spite of the odds. Now we're seeing African-led solutions that prove that impact is possible, which is really something that I'm really big on when we're talking about impact, sustainable impact. Conversations around impact are really important for me, because if we're talking about some of the goals that we have for the world now, talking about reducing education, reducing poverty, education, clean energy. Those are conversations that are really important to me, and you cannot overlook the African child when you're talking about this conversation.
They are the future of tomorrow, isn't it? So? And then, I mean, just to pour more light to what you just said, if you look at it closely, right? These decisions are global issues. Okay, talking about climate change, you're talking about free trade within countries. The children don't really have any say in these things. But if we begin to make decisions at that top level, right, having in mind the future leaders, I don't think we'll make decisions out of ego. Because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of decisions are made on that level out of ego, out of control, out of who wants to be in charge of the world market, who wants to be in charge of world domination and stuff like that. So all this is done without having the major reason why we're human beings in mind, which is continuity. And the only people who will succeed, those who are already old and about to leave this earth, are the young ones, are the children. We're no longer kids. But if you remember when we were kids, right? Think about it. Before you want to play with somebody else, you do ask the person, hey, are you a Muslim? Are you a Christian? Oh, where are you from? No, those questions don't come up. You just come out to the field and you play under the rain and sun. You are happy. Now, the question is this. Are decisions being made by world leaders that affect Africa? Well, we're talking about African kids right now. To affect Africa and its children so badly that their childhood are taken away from them? What decisions are we making? I mean, today we're hearing issues going up in Congo. We're hearing this place is war-torn zone. Or we hear rebels here. We hear M23 there. We hear different issues surrounding, illegal mining of natural resources and stuff like that. And most of these things find their way to the market of the West. Cobalt and what do you have? Gold and every other thing. But at the end of the day, someone suffers, right? Desertation continues. Believe it or not, desert encroachment is a big issue. And so if it affects, like you rightly said, climate change, if we're having more land being lost to desert, put this drought, I beg your pardon, what is the cause? These people come in, and when they mine the whole place, they purposely remove vegetation. So it affects the farmer, who in return is supposed to have some form of livelihood. And so his farming, his way of life is affected. And if he has like 8 to 5 or 10, 5 to 8 children or more, and so he's not left with a choice. Which one will he train? Which one will he send off? Or which will he probably give out to child marriage? And this is what we see on the daily. You wouldn't say because the economy is not what it is, so you shouldn't give birth to more than two kids. Most of the, I won't say religions, but most of the cultures allow for multiple marriages, allow for more children.
I think that at this point, though, this is why I come in. You talked about multiple children. I think there's also the role that we have to play as individuals and in terms of educating and also as the media.
Like family planning.
So it's very important, right? Even amongst educated people, there are people that constantly, they are still, trying to wrap their fingers around
how to plan your family.
Because if you're talking about family planning, being on the pill and all of those things, there is a really, really, the impact, negatively for some people. I mean, I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was telling me how she's been bleeding like since she got on the pill for like 2 years.
So
and
the
she
health
talked about,
scare.
yes. So she talked about the fact. So there are women that, I mean, that's also the reason why they've blown up in size. There are women that they have to bleed for a longer time.
And these are just after effects of the pills and everything.
The pill, right? And then she's talked about how she has dizzy spells, constant dizzy spells. So the pill has impacted her health negatively. So if that kind of person is speaking, and that's one in how many women that are also facing the impact, you kind of understand why some women would rather not go on the pill, because the side effects are terrible. So people would rather do, say, what, let's try the withdrawal method, which might not always work. That's, so you have more kids so we have more kids every year. So there are different layers to this conversation, really, if we're really going to be honest. But I want to commend the informal economy, the informal sector, because I think they're the ones that are doing the bulk of the work right now. I'm talking about NGOs. There are NGOs that are doing. Yes, you are free, but let me just finish. So there are NGOs that, for me, are really taking this conversation of the African child really seriously.
Bull by the horn.
They're empowering them. I did mention the most important things right now: eradicating poverty, education. All of these things are important.
And these are the solutions now.
Right, yes. And these NGOs are doing these things. So we have, the ghetto kids, Uganda. You see how those children's lives have been transformed. I don't know if you've come across them on social media. They're dancing, they're singing. They have decided to, look at another side of education. Education is not just about books. It's, in the creative sector, you want to dance, right? You have this gift. You want to dance. Let's see. Fine tune it.
How can that generate
You have this
income?
gift. You want to sing. Let's see what we can do there. And that's what they are doing with the people like the Ghetto Kids Foundation. And there are people that are supporting every time. I know a couple of us. Like, there are people that are supporting foundations like this every time to see that, the work that they are doing, because it started out, people are on social media, you see those pages, you're just laughing and kicking, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes. There's a lot more involved, and there are people that are constantly supporting. Now we have how many of those children now who have traveled out of, they've never been out of the country before. They've been sponsored now, yes, because of
who have discovered them.
because of what they've done with that. So those are people that are empowering the creative sector with the work that they are doing to empower and to help young African children. So you cannot tell me that their lives will be the same. Now there are people like Tunde Onokoya as well with the chess in slums. What is beautiful with the chess?
Recently, I don't know if you saw it, but I think he had some other kids that he took abroad.
Yes. And that, to me, is real impact. And that's why I said that's the informal sector that are doing the bulk of the work right now. I'm not saying that the government is not doing. The government is doing work. But I do think that in terms of real impact, I think that it's the informal sector that is doing so much of the work.
But another question here, let's talk about it. If the informal sector are the ones pushing out creativity as a solution, right, to having children really make good use of their childhood, hence the ghetto kids, like you said, I don't know if you also heard of the Ikorodu boys too.
Of course.
So if the informal sector are the ones pushing this narrative, is it just possible that monies can be given to the right organization or the right platform to help them even grow better? If so, why are we not doing it?
Are they not doing it? Why are we not doing it? Who is we in question?
Good. Now, they say government is for the people, by the people, and of the people, right?
Mm.
And we're talking about Africa as a whole.
Mm.
Do we have, yes, I'm sure we do, we have something like that under the AU, African Union, but it needs to be more holistic, where they'll say our job as a department of, creativity or whatever it is, to source out or rather look out for this talent. I know we have some talent platforms like what is it, Idols or something like that.
Well, there's also Road 17, which
I was coming there.
Sporting talent,
yes.
voiceover talent,
yes,
and all of that.
But there are other, like you said, there are other creative ways to bring out this talents from these children. Because the whole aim here, right, is to help project the African child. And let's change the narrative. So I think already the informal sector, they're doing a good job to tell the narrative the way it is supposed to be told. Make no mistake, history never favors those who lose the battle. It is those who won. So we're saying, it's not as if we didn't fight a good fight. But 20 years down the line from now, right, anyone who is giving birth to now will be 20 years after now, in 20 years from now. So my question is, they'll be saying, we who are in media industry as broadcasters, are we pushing the narrative to be able to make the world see Africa from a different light? It shouldn't just be whenever you talk about Africa, you see flies run around and flying around the heads of children. You see them starving. And I'm not saying such is not happening. But when we change the narrative, the international world begin to see, wait a minute, it is possible that Africa has grown. Let us move from the mentality of asking for aid. Recently, I saw in the news where the United States, Trump, is thinking about, banning visa from Nigeria. I said, go ahead. Why? Ban Nigerians from coming to the US. What that will do, amazingly, on the flip side, it will get our government to begin to think very hard to say, this is a major, call to action.
Right.
Get Nigeria fixed, fix Nigeria. And let's be honest, if you look at it, some other African countries are doing something great. Recently, the Ghana cedi is doing very well in the international market thanks to their gold reserve. So all this can be replicated around Africa. And if we can get it right, what happens is that the economies begin to grow, more money is put into the informal sector, creativity begins to have a far wider reach, more than just Nollywood or Gollywood or whatever it is. There'll be more to it, and then it will trickle down to families that can actually now make a living and give their children better life. Same with every other sector. You need major funds to go into these things. Yes, I'm not saying the government is not doing enough, but we're talking about Africa as a whole. Is the AU doing enough? Let's come to West Africa. Is ECOWAS doing enough?
UNICEF is doing, they're doing
UNICEF,
their bits.
I want to be very honest with you. As much as they're doing their bit, they also have their own motives too. And this is not a way of me trying to put them under the bus. They have their own motive too. Because let's be honest, if a nation doesn't need anything, they will not look to you. It is high time that we move away from aid. Don't give aid, right? Bring those industries into Africa. That's why till tomorrow I will still want to hail, Ibrahim Traore. Really, he said, "Look, we don't need your aid. We as Africans are smart enough to make Africa work and get our kids, engaged positively. We need to change the narrative. It is time for us to say, look, African children should no longer be seen as poverty-stricken children. They should enjoy being kids. Their childhood should not be taken away. So for that to happen, for us to come to an age where the African child will become a point of, call when you want to say, man, look, these guys are having fun. Point to the African child. For that to happen, for the international world to respect Africa, we need to begin to say, what kind of deals are our leaders making with the Western world, with the international world? Those deals will trickle down to how the African child can survive, because it all boils down to the economy. So make good decisions at the top and watch the way other Africans and innovators and entrepreneurs will put together businesses that will bring the African child to light. Hence, reducing child mortality, reducing every other thing that can affect the African child. So, to cut the whole long story short, African leaders do better.
And when you speak of doing better, because we have to go now,
Right.
I do think that generally in the creative sector, I think that's where most of the work is being done now. And I also, as much as that is commendable, I've mentioned some of the people, too, individuals, because
True.
really I think it's individuals that are doing much of the work right now. The government is trying, but in terms of measurable impact, I can point out these people. I can point out the Chelsea slums. I can point out the ghetto kids Uganda. I can point out the Korodu boys. There are a number of them that I can point out.
And also, just to add to what you're saying very quickly, have you noticed that most of these creative sectors, right, that are bringing out this great talent from our kids in Africa, most of them are private companies who are sponsoring these things.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That it's the private sector, and that also. I mean, I don't think we should completely be condemning it.
They're also brand. They're brand savvy too. They're also thinking this is good for our brand or not.
Brand positioning, and that's why I'm also thinking now. Recently, we had the cowbell. Since when I was a child, there's always been the cowbell competition. But I think that it's about time we start increasing the winners' gifts, the winner prizes for this competition. It's high time that they start competing with the big brother. I don't want to mention brand, but it's that high time they start competing with reality shows that really don't have much impact. Do you understand? In terms of the society, when they're not educating you, they are not. They're just entertaining you and entertaining you even in the wrong way. Do you understand? So I do think that it's time that these brands will put their money where their mouth is. And they think that putting their money where their mouth is by putting your money in different reality shows that is just about doing all sort of, I like to call it shenanigans on TV.
And it's the narrative we're pushing out there.
Exactly. There's a lot more. So when I see the likes of the cowbell competition giving out cash gifts or the prize for the
brainstorming
winner
during the competition itself,
then I'll be proud. Now I also have to commend people like Speaker, which Speaker is Ayomaro's event, which is something that I'm always a part of. And I think that it's really commendable because every she's going to have it this year again, and every year that she has this event, the cash gift to be won for debates, for speaking. It's all about speaking. So there's debate. There are just all sort of competitions around speaking.
I mean, the idea is to have our young ones.
Yes. Okay, this is your gift.
The courage.
Let's work on it. And there are people, and I'm also grateful also for all the people that put in their money to support one way or the other. Last year there were the minister of Toke Benson. She's always really supportive of things like this. And I remember that day when they had mentioned the cash gifts and the winners had come up, fantastic young girls. This time around, they went to the schools, in fact, because usually it was always like amount, more older people. I mean, maybe like people in their 20s. But this time around, they went to the schools, like primary schools, and said, you know what, we're doing a competition. And they made these people challenge themselves. And I talk about the right type of challenges
that will grow them intellectually.
Yes, the right type of challenges.
Mentally.
I was really the hall was filled up, and then this woman, when people, I saw that's the right audience. The people there were you know, upping the stake. Like, oh, how much is the cash gift? One man is just saying, I'm adding this amount, I'm adding this amount. At the end of the day, they were helping the children because the money goes to the child that wins, the second runner-up, the third runner-up, and then the money also goes to there's also like some fund that goes to the parents, to the school. So are you understanding like the ripple effect?
It's a
so
direct
it's not
benefit.
Just, yes, so it's not just the child. So the schools are willing to put their children, with their pupils, to also participate in this thing, and then the schools are gaining. The Vitafoam was supporting, you know, in terms of giving mattresses, in terms of giving all sort of things, laptops, things that will actually
grow the child,
grow the family. So I'm going to be proud of my child to know that my child won. Do you understand? XYZ
from a competition,
like this that was developing the child, and that's what many of these people should be doing. And I'm still saying that it's the private sector that keeps contributing.
Also, another thing, you see, I will not run it past the government. They're also doing their part too. I mean, by making sure that the environment is conducive, which is why we say, look, government put more. Make it possible that these private sectors can say, you know what, we want to go down to the villages to go and get those talents. I'm not worried that their staffs will be kidnapped, you know. Once these 5 things, or put this with 4 areas, are tackled and dealt with by government, I tell you, you have more international companies come to sponsor these kind of activities that will help grow our children. 1, security, very important. Then power, key. Okay, healthcare, important. Accessibility, good roads, and let us add this one to the other one. For what it is, water. But if we can get healthcare, good, we get security. Because if you have all these things, if you don't have a secured area, nobody will come. But get lives and property protected. And with that, I'm sure it will trickle down to make our children enjoy another 16th of June next year.
Very enjoyably. And on this day, let's remember that every child's future is our collective responsibility.
True.
Let's invest in education. Let's protect our children, and let's amplify their voices. My name is Elizabeth Musa.
I'm Onyeka Valentine. Children's Day. Was nice, wasn't it?
International Day of the African Child. Happy International Day of the African Child to every child out there, every child in the studio, every child in Lagos, every child in Nigeria. Enjoy a beautiful day.